This is Ryan Abraham and Dan Weber, USCFootball.com instant analysis here from high above the Coliseum, Dan, where USC loses to the University of Washington 17-12. Kind of hard to explain this one. It was a weird one to start. I mean, just a Thursday game. The crowd wasn't really showing up until late because of all the LA traffic. The team didn't look like they showed up till late either.
Fortunately, Washington did.
Yeah.
I mean, they looked like they could not have had a better game plan. They couldn't have executed any better. They couldn't have played any fast. I mean, you watched them warm up and you said, they don't have the athletes USC has. They're not as quick. They're not as fast. Once the game started, they were quicker and they were faster and they were wherever they were supposed to be, and USC was not.
We had a premium chat today on USCFootball.com. One of the questions was, do you think a bunch of penalties would make a difference in this game for USC? And I think I didn't think it would at the time. Could that make a difference? But piled up with the penalties, all the pre-snap penalties on the offense, setting everything back, the turnovers, just so many mental mistakes. It seemed like they all sort of piled up. USC kept themselves in a hole, and Washington was able to take advantage of it.
Well, I think if you get into a game like this where you should be able to run the ball, and maybe you want to run the ball, and you keep shooting yourself in the foot, you can't run the ball. I mean, you can't. You get desperation out there, and you start grab bagging, and you say, well, let's try this play, or let's try that play. I mean, it's just, I keep talking about this. I don't think I've ever seen this. They hit the ball 2nd and 1 after a Trey 9-yard gain down to the 11.
Yeah.
They complete 2 passes, as you said, no penalties, and it's 4th and 1. How do you do that? I mean, you almost can't. What are you thinking? What are you drawing up? What kind of, the idea that they couldn't throw the ball down the field at all on this team, and it was obvious they couldn't. Cody was spooked from the minute, he didn't see on the first interception, he didn't see on the screen pass, he evidently didn't see. Washington had more defenders on that screen pass than USC. Washington's kids all knew where the ball was. USC's guys hadn't even turned around yet, and the Washington kids got the ball. It was awful. It was really, really horrific.
You said grab bag. I think that's a good way to put it. Cody Kessler with a couple of picks only had 1 coming into the game, but there wasn't any kind of rhythm. We know this team didn't have much of an offensive identity. They can kind of do a lot of different things, but chunk plays, those big plays, big touchdowns was something that this USC team could do. Once those were not there, it was really hard for this team to move the ball. 1 of 12 on third downs, or 1 of 12 or 1 of 13. 1 of 13 on third downs in this game after having a really good third down game against Arizona State, 10 of 16. They just couldn't seem to get anything going, and like you said, grab bagging was almost like some play would work, so you would go away from it, and they would try something different, and it just didn't work.
Well, I think the perfect example was, they ride Ronald Jones to finally score a touchdown. They get it to 17-12. They get a big defensive stand. The crowd's all fired up. They got the ball back, and bing, 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 3 straight really bad-looking pass pattern.
Yeah.
And they had 6 minutes or whatever it was to go, 5 minutes, and they just didn't. It didn't feel like, well, why wouldn't you just run it down? You had enough time, run it down, score, and game's over. They didn't do it.
Yeah. And even in the first half, we saw Trey Madden, who actually had over 100 yards in this game, 3 straight runs. It's the first quarter. He's still fresh. They take him out and they put in Ronald Jones. He ends up fumbling, and there's a penalty and all this kind of stuff happening. But it just seemed like once something started to work, they went away from it.
Yeah, they don't have an identity. You don't know who they are. I think that reflects on the coach. You have to know who you are, how you're going to win games, what you trust, what you think you can get done, and they don't have that. They don't have a sense of who are we? How do we win football games? I don't think they had any idea how they. It would have been easier. For example, tonight, you say, as Sark did, wow, you get that 2-point extra point, and you kick the field goal, and gee, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points in a 17-12 game. That probably would have been a good thing there in the 4th quarter. That's okay. But they didn't get either one of those. How you or I would have scored on that play that Trey dropped the ball.
Yeah.
It's inexplicable.
Yeah.
It's inexplicable, unacceptable. It's all the words you want to use for what happened here tonight.
And with using a couple of timeouts on offense in the second half, I didn't think that allowed USC to be able to try to kick that field goal at the end. We got a lot of tweets about it. Steve Sarkisian, was defending his call after the game. What did you think about the call and how that went down?
I think the worst part of it was he'd already blown 2 timeouts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2 sloppy timeouts because you don't know what you're doing on offense, and now they're gone. And so now you're thinking, we're going to get one more chance or whatever. And again, 4th down was a lot tougher because it was 4th and long, because they'd screwed up a couple of the plays before that. So, made it a longer field goal, made it a much more difficult conversion. It was all those things. Plus, their passing game was going so badly. And yet here, Washington with a freshman quarterback on the road, they're 3rd and long, and they execute, with a slant pattern, boom, 1st down, game's over. Basically, they needed one more 1st down. They got it. That's, again, unacceptable.
One last thing for you, Dan. There was an interesting question at the end of the press conference from Steve Sarkisian. I think it came from Pete Thamel from the New York Times about, are you coaching for your job? Is this something where, with the off-field incident and this kind of inexplicable loss when you're favored by 17 points at home against a undermanned Washington team, are you now coaching for your job?
He said no, not at all. It almost doesn't matter what he said. That's not his call. His job is to coach his team up, and more efforts like this, it ain't going to matter what he says or what he thinks. Somebody else is going to make that call, and I'm looking at tonight, and I say, you've got what happened in August at the we won't even talk. But that's strike 1. Stanford was strike 2. I'm afraid tonight might have been strike 3. It's baseball playoff time, and I think we all know what 3 strikes mean. He's really in a difficult place, I think, right now.
It certainly makes the game next weekend in South Bend at Notre Dame all that much more important for this USC football team.
Yeah, it is, and this effort tonight will get them run out of Notre Dame Stadium. I mean, this effort tonight was just totally unacceptable. I mean, they did so little right tonight, and it starts with Sark, and it could end with Sark. I mean, just the idea that it's been since 2001 since a USC team has lost back-to-back home games, and that was Pete's first year, and his second year from then on, they got it squared away. This is Sark's second year, and if you look at, for example, Peterson comes in, loses 3 guys to the NFL draft. Basically, he's got just a bunch of young kids out there, and Sark's got a team of guys coming in off the best recruiting class in the country and All-Americans, and the difference between how that Washington team performed and how Sark's team performed is so stark, makes it hard.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up here from the Coliseum. A little bit longer instant analysis because we're going to get a lot of questions. We'll be podcasting again and stuff this weekend. But for Dan Weber, this is Ryan Abraham. Check out USCfootball.com for more.